I've been through so much myself, and sometimes people ask me, "Oh, how do you handle this so casually?" I'm like, it's not casual. It's because I know that I have to deal with these things, and me worrying or reacting in a manner that's not going to solve the
Right.
problem is not going to do anything.
Because if you talk about forgiveness, you can't have forgiveness and leave it there. It leads to freedom. Most people don't get married to get divorced. Let's just be realistic. Going through a divorce is emotional, and it does not matter your gender. And people sometimes have knee-jerk reaction, and then they regret what they did. But you want to be prepared.
Welcome to another episode of Get Intentional with Mary. In today's episode, I'm honored to have TrevisMichelle join me. She's a notable speaker, author, mental health coach, and registered nurse. TrevisMichelle is also an inspiring cervical cancer survivor. Today, we go deep into her story, exploring the trials and triumphs that forged her into the strong woman that she is today. We will dive into how she channeled her faith and positivity during her health crisis, and the impact that these experiences had on her journey through divorce. Get ready, because TrevisMichelle is also going to share valuable insights on handling the emotional complexities of divorce, especially when children are involved. She really emphasizes the significance of forgiveness, financial independence, and prioritizing your mental health during this challenging season. So stay tuned as we unpack the strategies and techniques to empower you or someone you know when it comes to navigating the end of a relationship and divorce. As always, if you find this episode useful, go ahead and share it with somebody who may be going through a difficult time. Now, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to another episode of Get Intentional with Mary. I have a very special guest here today for an important topic that everyone needs to be aware of, and that is the topic of relationships and divorce. And TrevisMichelle is going to be sharing her own personal experience. This woman is such a powerful speaker and has been through so much. So, TrevisMichelle, thank you for being here. Just please, before I go any further, introduce yourself in your own words.
Hi, thank you so much for this opportunity, Mary. And I feel so honored to have met you. You really do add value to my life. And I know I've never told you that before, but I've been watching you from a distance for a while. So thank you for being you, because you are always 100, as we say in NYC. So, anyhow, I'm Travis Michelle. I am a speaker, an author, a cervical cancer conqueror and advocate, a certified mental health coach and advocate. And I'm a registered nurse by profession, but I'm also, which I'm, really excited about, is I'm a divorce strategist.
Yes.
Yeah.
That word strategist to me means a lot of things, because I feel like we have to approach everything with a strategy. Even a conversation, difficult conversations that we sometimes have with people. I remember when I was going through my coaching trainings, one of the things that we talked about was, what is the outcome that you want to have when you're going into a difficult conversation? So for me, it's about like the plan and the strategy and the outcome that you want to have with that. And when it comes to your life design and everything else, your business, it all involves strategy. And why not bring that into such a sensitive topic like divorce and navigating that? So tell us why you went into this path. I know that you had a health situation that you had to overcome, and just your attitude with all of that to me was so refreshing. And it really does showcase the faith that you have inside of you too, and that warrior spirit that you have. So maybe walk us through that first before we go into what it is that you are doing now and where it all led you.
Right. So on November 2021, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, stage 3B3C, which is advanced. And no one wants to hear those words. But my team said, "You have cervical cancer, it's curable."
Mhm.
And everyone else heard death. But I concentrated on the word curable. So I said, "You know what, God, you said I should live and not die, because my relationship with God, that's my foundation." And I was just like, okay, so what do we have to do? And that meant I needed to shift my mind
Mm.
into action, into surviving, even more so thriving, which is why I say it's a thriver.
Yeah.
So I had to put myself back through my own methodology that I've used that has helped me through so many traumas in my life. And that is my walk method. And I had to hear what the doctor said, acknowledge it, because sometimes when we're in denial, we don't want to hear it. We want to hear what we want to hear. And I had to say, okay, so I have the right team, but what are the actions? The actions were that I would go through the process. I would have to go through this journey. I don't know what the journey was going to look like, even though registered nurse, a lot of people assume, oh, you already know, and oh, you're in oncology too. You know, mm-mm. It's different when it's you. It hits different.
Mhm.
So when they said aggressive treatment, I was like, yeah, I got this. This aggressive, right? I did not realize what aggressive meant in terms of going through the cancer journey. But I realized with everything I've been through in my life, this is going to be called light work.
Mm,
I had to then love on myself, which is an L. And that meant I had to forgive myself because I had not been to the gynecologist in a very long time, over a decade. Don't judge me, or you can judge me, really don't matter. And I had every other test. And as a nurse, you have every test, you have the vaccines, all of this. But due to my traumas, I didn't want to go to the gynecologist because of PTSD.
mm,
So now I'm diagnosed with cervical cancer. Oh, must be your fault. What did I do wrong? No, I had to forgive myself because that wasn't going to help me. And when I forgave me, and then I had this awesome team at New York Presbyterian Columbia, Dr. Gockley, and she says, yeah, you're not the first. There are women that is like 20, 30 years that haven't been, but we're here to fight because we're curing you. And I was like, okay. So that also led to freedom because I didn't have to worry about the stigma. I didn't have to worry about what you said about me. I didn't have to worry about the judgment. It freed me up for my healing. And then Kay was kicking butt unapologetically, which is what I'm doing because I'm still going through the journey. It's still, once you're out of treatment, there's that rebuilding phase, which is actually more challenging than the actual treatment sometimes. But I had to learn to walk one step at a time. So that's how I've been getting through my journey and sharing it with others and being an advocate and being part of survivor.org, where we're talking about the HPV vaccine. Like you start at age 9 and get it by age 44. If you haven't taken it until you're 18 or 25, it's not too late. Being able to share that in our communities, especially the Black and Brown communities, where we don't want to discuss certain issues in public, and knowing that it's not just about females. We always say the girls are girls, but it's men as well. It's the
yeah.
boys as well. So having those healthy conversations, and how do we have them? We have to strategize. Everything comes down to that.
Yeah, let me go back a little bit here and ask you, did you always have that type of mentality? Because when that came your way and you had to talk to the doctors and the doctors gave you this news that to everybody, of course, it's terrible. Nobody wants to hear cancer. You have cancer. And the way that you met that, the way that your mindset was working, were you always like that growing up, or is this something that just developed as you grew?
I'm glad you asked me that. So I have been that way for a very long time, and that's due to certain traumas that I've had in my life. And before the traumas, or some of them, I had those. I had two of the best grandparents in the world, Alice and Clarence Presley, and so they were already pouring into me as from my young age, and especially when I was able to live with them, where um, I give credit to them for the woman that I am today and still becoming. They would always tell me that I was beautiful, even though my parents told me that I wasn't. They always told me I was intelligent. They told me that, you know, because I accepted Christ at 9 years old, because I knew how it felt, right? And they kept saying, but you're going to go through, but it doesn't mean that it's that you can't overcome them. It's
Mm,
because you're to help other people. And my grandparents instilled that in me because Mary McLeod Bethune instilled it in her. If y'all don't know who Mary McLeod Bethune is, go and look her up on Google. But
okay.
she's also part. We have Mary McLeod Bethune Cookman College now, which is at HBCU. But my grandparents instilled in me that life challenges are going to happen. It's how you show up for them, but we can't skip to the end of the line. So I didn't realize this. It wasn't a conscious decision I was making over time. But then when other traumas would happen in my life, I resorted back to that. And when my grandparents weren't there, when I had moved to Florida with my mother, and I always had that to hold on to. So going through then divorce, I always would reach back. You have to go through this process. You can't ignore it. Although I would want to curl up in bed and ignore it, but that wasn't going to help me. Right.
Mhm.
So it's a mindset that was shifted at a very young age. That's why I say it's so important what we teach our children. It's yes, we can tell them everything, but it's really our actions that count.
Yeah. Wow. So what you said here is so important. I wrote it down because it has to be repeated. Life challenges are always going to happen, but it's how you show up that makes all the difference. Right? And you can't skip the line. You still have to go through the hard stuff. I mean, and as parents, we want to safeguard our kids from that. We want to take it all away and we want them to just kind of learn the lesson without having going through the pain, you
Right.
know. So it's important to go through that. Otherwise, we don't become the people that we are supposed to become. We're not the people that we are meant to become, and we're not able to help others get through their journey at the same time. I feel like it's a blessing and a curse at the same time to have to go through all the pain and all the trauma to be these amazing women that we are today. I've been through so much myself, and sometimes people ask me, "Oh, how do you handle this so casually?" I'm like, "It's not casual. It's because I know that I have to deal with these things, and me worrying about certain things or reacting in a manner that's not going to solve the problem is not going to do anything for me, right? So we learn and we know that God has our back at the end of the day and he carries everything for us. So I love that you had that. A lot of people unfortunately don't have that. They learn these lessons as they grow and they're adults when they go through all the heartache and they finally tune into their personal development and their personal growth. So you went through this cancer diagnosis, you had all of these issues happen when you were young. The fact that your mom did not instill in you like that self-love and all that, it's painful. It's painful and you probably have to do a lot of internal work to get through that. Let me ask you this now, TrevisMichelle. Like, how did that impact your relationships, not just within yourself, but also with, romantic relationships?
Okay, Mary. So we're going to get to the nitty gritty. Fine. Yeah, and you see, I laugh a lot
Yeah.
because if not, I'd be sitting in a corner, balled up, crying. I don't take myself that seriously anymore. I used to though.
Mhm.
I had to grow up quickly because of certain traumas that happened in my life. And when you have parents, not just my mother, but also my father, they did absolutely nothing to love on me. And people from the outside looking in thought it was great. I had a great childhood, right? But again, due to those wonderful grandparents, they kept loving on me. But as a child, you want your parents to love on you too. Nothing like grandparents, but you're still saying, what is wrong with me? And really leaning in on God, on my faith, not on church, not on what other, no, like with that relationship with God, and my grandparents loving on me and showing me love, and me seeing them love each other helped me. And then as an adult, let's be real. Yes, I went to therapy. I did therapy. I'm in therapy now because going through this trauma, I'm in therapy for that. But that's how I got through it. So it's no magic wand. People look at me, even with going through rebuilding from cervical cancer. Oh my gosh, you make it look so easy.
Mm.
And I was like, but I don't know how to make it look hard. I don't have to look like my struggle,
Mhm.
right? Because what we tell ourselves is what is. So when you say that you're no good, when you say that all these negative things, then what else are you hearing but negativity?
Mm.
So because my grandparents were counteracting and I was fortunately able to escape out of Florida and come back to New York City, I was able to be wrapped up, not just loved on by my grandparents, but by their circle of friends. And It was a slow healing process, but I was willing to do it. See, that's that W, willing participant. And I had to know that I was jacked up in some areas. So because of the relationship the way my father, and I'm his only child, my father just passed in February, but being his only child and him neglecting me, paying his child support, abandoning me emotionally, yes, how did it affect me in relationships? I'm a people pleaser.
Mm.
Now, excuse me, I'm TrevisMichelle, reforming people pleaser, but I wanted to be loved. I
Yeah.
wanted to, I wanted you to like me. And because people saw strength in me, they didn't want to,
Mm.
especially relationships with women and women that in the Black and Brown community. I don't know if they felt I was a threat, but that's all I wanted. I just wanted them to accept me. And even in high school, they didn't. Now they used me because I was smart and they needed a tutor.
Mm.
But I was never that, a part of the groups. I was into my books. That was it. So yes, it did affect me. So I ended up being married to a much older man, 32 years older.
Wow, that I didn't know. Wow,
I
we
know.
learned something new today, TrevisMichelle. Wow. Okay.
But I was comfortable with
Mm.
the older man because I was raised by my grandparents.
Yeah.
So I understood how they thought. But people my own age, I didn't. Because when you have certain traumas occur in your life, whatever age that trauma happens, you are stunted, and emotionally it takes time for you to catch up. And I haven't really caught up to my age, but that's okay because you know what? The little girl in me is having an awesome time now.
Mhm.
So
Oh, I
that's
love
my
that.
caveat.
I love that. You said something earlier that I've used in the past also. You get to the point in life where the hard thing looks easy on you. Like
Mhm.
people are shocked by how other women behave even in the midst of chaos and pain and suffering because they're handling the hard stuff in such a way that looks easy, but it's not that easy. We still battle internally. And when we've been through all sorts of different traumas, we do build up these wolves and we do want to do everything ourselves. And it's our coping mechanism. And as you know, going through therapy, you learn all of these things about yourself. And then you're like, wait a minute, here I am reacting in the way that I was before, but now I'm aware of the way that I am reacting or the words that I'm saying, the way that you just corrected yourself. You're like, excuse me, TrevisMichelle, reformed people pleaser, right? But we grow up with these things, and you are such a strong and powerful. Like sometimes we don't realize that even that word powerful is so powerful, like the power that you emit in your presence, the way that you speak, the power in your speech that day that we were at the Mom Link event. And I was like, holy smokes, like you were moving from side to side. And I was just like in awe of how a woman can move like that and what it takes for a woman to behave in that way. You know what I mean? Like to have that confidence. And sometimes you're like, oh no, it comes from above, but you got to accept the gift, right? So I just wanted to give you your kudos for that, and you inspire the heck out of me. I'm like, yeah, I want to have that level of confidence when I speak and just take up space in the way that we are meant to take up space. So I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for inspiring me and everybody else in that room for that matter. So
Well, you know what? I have these magnetic eyelashes on. I'm trying to put them on, guys. Okay, without tearing up here, but you know, uh, I'm at a loss for words right now, Mary, because you like you're no joke. Okay, y'all, you heard it. She's not. When I say she's nice, she's professional, all of that. But to make an impact on her is huge. So, thank you so much. And I accept that with so much grace. You notice I didn't say I was humbled because some of our words that we use, they're not empowering. Humble is not empowering.
right.
I humbled myself to God,
Mhm.
right? But to everyone else, I'm grateful and I'm gracious. And I learned that from my grandmother.
Mhm. I love that so much. I love that. And when you said before too that other women found you intimidating because they didn't realize what was missing inside of them. And you get to a point in life where you learn to recognize that other women do have what's missing inside of you. And instead of seeing it as a threat, see it as an attainable thing to do. You're like, whoa, look at Travis and Michelle. Yeah, I'm gonna work on being that bold. You know what I mean? As opposed to, oh man, that woman, she's intimidating me, and you take a step back and you're like, I'm a little uncomfortable because she's too much. And what you said that day, like you're too much. Yeah, people will say sometimes that you are too much, but you are just enough for you. And the way that you said it, it was like you belong on a freaking screen. Okay, I'm telling you right now, in a theater somewhere on a screen, and the way, like, even like the vibration of your voice, it was like you reminded me of this huge persona, this preacher type of person, because I really, you're preaching to us. You're teaching us something that is meant to be taken at a soul level, not just on a surface level. I'm loving this conversation. Now let's move on a little bit into how you were able to navigate your relationship coming to an end, and how that led you to empower other women and help them through this difficult journey.
Well, most people, because I'm sure there could be some, but most people don't get married to get divorced, right? And even though this man was so much older than me, he treated me so well until he didn't.
Mm.
And so I felt I was a failure as a mom, and I felt I was a failure as a wife. And most importantly, I knew God would forgive me and he would love me. But you know who it mattered the most to? For me, my grandparents.
Mm.
And I went crying to my grandma, and I said that my grandfather had already passed. And I said, I'm so sorry. I said, but I'm going to have to end this relationship. It's not healthy for me anymore. And I want our children to be healthy as possible. We're going to have to co-parent. I need to get out. I'm going to file for divorce. And I just begged her to forgive me. And my grandmother held on to me and she said, baby, you are doing the right thing. You have to follow your mind, even if your heart is saying no. She says, but I'm going to love you anyway. And it's okay. So that gave me that freedom, right? Because we talk about forgiveness. Well, you can't have forgiveness and leave it there. It leads to freedom. It was like, okay. But guess what? I was in school to be a registered nurse. I'm on loans in my own name. And I didn't even have a car. Because once you say you're going through a divorce, people change. You can't unsay those words. And that's why, as a divorce strategist, like, it's chess, not checkers. I take that from Training Day, Denzel Washington. But we have to have a plan, because then people are going to plan if you don't, right?
They'll plan for you.
Right. And I'm like, I don't have any money. What am I going to do? And because my grandmother had money, she was able to financially help me. But I still found other resources because I didn't want to rely on her. So I was working, prior to becoming a registered nurse, I was in the legal field. So I started out as a word processor, moved up to secretary, and then into being a paralegal. So I was in there typing away, then taking my kids, with me to school. And I must say that my ex-husband, he wasn't a good husband to me anymore, but he was still a good father. So he still paid child support. He still paid for their private school, but he took away the car. So my grandmother helped me. She gave me money so that I could get a car. And I just wanted a piece. She was like, I was like, no, I just need a piece of a car. And that's exactly what I had, a piece of a car. My children and I laugh about it today. We had duct tape holding on the bumpers, literally. But I had to get to school. I had to do what I had to do. And because of that resilience, because I also had only one person to support me, all the people that I thought were friends and family, they turned on me. So I only had my grandmother who stood beside me every step of the way. And actually, classmates in school, in nursing school, stood beside me. And so I just had to take one step at a time. It took me 3 years to get the divorce. I had to change attorneys 3 times. So that's why, going through it for myself, seeing the way we're looked at when we walk into a lawyer's room, office, and we're Black or brown. We're not treated the same.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, all of a sudden they want their money up front. Where my girlfriend, who was Caucasian, who referred me to him, said, "Oh, no, no problem. We'll wait. You don't have to pay me now." She ended up, I mean, like I said, she was really a good friend. She fired him because
Wow.
you treat my friend that way, then you're not going to treat me well. He was so upset because he didn't expect her to support me, but we're treated differently. So one, because you're a woman, and then because you're, you know, of the marginalized
Mm-hmm.
community. But it's so funny. I empower women, you know, to navigate the divorce process to save time, money, and maintain sanity. But my clients are men, so I don't know where that is. But anywho,
Mhm. That's a very interesting that your clients are men, but navigating through that process, the separation, I'm sure there's a whole different list of steps that you take, which is of course way different than when you're getting married and you have to look at all these things. But there has to be a strategy and a step-by-step process there also as you're having the conversation. And then when those words come out, I want a divorce, okay, we're going to move forward with this, and the transition that goes on in between and all the pain, and then dealing with the children if you have kids,
mhm.
how do you navigate that delicately in a way that won't mess them up? I mean, we could only pray and hope that they don't suffer the consequences as they grow, and then relationship issues when the time comes for them. But let's say we have somebody now who is currently going through that and is heading toward divorce, and she comes to you and says, "TrevisMichelle, I have kids, I don't have an income of my own." What is the first thing that you would recommend to them?
And I do have women come to me with that, and as well as men, because we always think that it's always women, but both. But
Yeah.
the first conversation I have is I want them to know that that they are sure that they want to pursue the divorce, because sometimes we say things because we're angry, you know,
Yeah.
or because something didn't go our way, or we're using it to manipulate.
Yeah.
So once you're sure this is what you want to do, I immediately tell them to forgive themselves.
Mm.
And I said, you're going to have to forgive yourself several times a day. You may have to forgive yourself several times a week and several times a month.
Yeah.
If this is a healthy decision for you, you are making the right decision. So I validate for them instead of spending time on making them feel bad. If there are children involved, then I want to discuss with them having that mindset shifting, that effective co-parenting communication is essential.
Yeah.
Now, we're not going to do everything right, because when I asked for a divorce, I didn't do that. I didn't think ahead. I was done, and I just said, I want a divorce. It
Mhm.
was not very smart, but I've learned now the best way to do that. Because when you make that decision, I will also say, look, don't say anything to your partner
Mm.
right now, because I need you to sit down, do a budget. I need you to see, any passwords you have, you need to change them now.
Mm.
Not the things that you have that are joint, but anything that's yours. Because, you share back and forth, you need to change them. That's huge. You know how many people don't change passwords? And it's crazy. And it's on their own personal things. Um, Decide who is paying for the car. Is the car in your name? Is it in his name? Who pays the car insurance? Because people are going to stop doing that a lot of times. Not everyone, but let's just be realistic. Going through a divorce is emotional, and it does not matter your gender. It is emotional. And people sometimes have knee jerk reaction, and then they regret what they did, but you want to be prepared. So telling them that depending on what city they're in, they need to look up legal aid, because they do have discounted services.
Mm.
Uh, Childcare is going to be important. Who is going to help you with your children? Do you live near your family? And this is aside from being in a domestic violence relationship, male or female, because an exit plan, this is totally different. Okay, that's separate from that. But under the ordinary circumstances, yeah, those are discussions you need to have. And if you go, then once you've done that planning, I need you to go to a public place and have a discussion with them Don't have it where you're in the house, because now everybody's going to talk about what you did, I did, she did. And I don't really get into the he, she, and who's right or wrong, because this is a very small time in your life. And the healing starts the fact that you're making a positive decision, a healthy decision for yourself, which then makes it a healthy decision for your children. In terms when you made the comment, we don't want to mess the kids up, and that no matter what we do as parents, our kids are always going to come back and say they could have done it better, or I'm going to be a better parent than you, or I'm not. They're always, we're never going to be perfect, right? But being vulnerable to your children and letting them know that they are loved. And even if you don't want to say daddy loves you or mommy loves you, you need to say that. You need to let them know, regardless, that you know what, we both love you, but this is a healthy decision. Because I rather see, first of all, I need to really say, I believe in marriage. I will get remarried one day, but I do believe in marriage, right? However, if you are married and dysfunctional, just because you're in the same home, just to say you're married and living together, that's not helping anyone. There are plenty of single mothers and single fathers that are healthy, that are doing co-parenting with each other, and the children are doing so well. But we need to be honest with our children, and we don't need to use them as pawns.
Yeah. Yeah, you said something very important before, that this is an emotional
Mhm.
decision, and emotions are going to be all over the place. A lot of anger, a lot of frustration, grief, everything. But what you also said that is extremely important is having that exit plan. And instead of being too emotional and saying the words right away, to really just plan ahead and think about how your life is going to look. And a lot of that has to deal with finances. How are you going to get around, where are you going to live, etc. So for anybody who may be listening and thinking, okay, you know what, this is information that a friend could use, definitely share it. Or maybe it's information that you yourself could use. Maybe you're thinking a certain way and there's just no way to go back. Have the healthy conversation with yourself first and analyze your situation, and then get in touch with somebody who truly understands and can guide you and help you strategize, because that's what you need. You need a strategy. You need a proper plan. You need to put that address in the GPS and know exactly where you're going. So to that end, TrevisMichelle, you have a boot camp coming up, and tell me a little bit about that. What does it entail? And I know that there's so much that goes with having these conversations and helping everybody get through it in a healthy way, because that's what we want, especially when there are kids involved. So walk us through your boot camp, and share with us.
Well, I am so excited. Yes. So the boot camp is November 16th, 17th, and 18th. And it's 3 days, it's live. So the first day, we look at the divorce process. What does it look like? Some people don't even know. You're going to have depositions, interrogatories. What is that? I am not your legal advisory.
Mhm.
Now, this is in conjunction. I work as a team, but going over um, what you might have to do and strategies in the general is the first day. The second day, vetting an attorney. People don't even know how to ask an attorney questions, and you're intimidated, right? It's like going to the doctor. Help me. Oh my gosh, whatever you say, I'll do. No, the attorney works for you. You need to at least see two that you can compare, and all attorneys are not the same. So you want to ask a question. Are you friends with my spouse's attorney? It seems silly. It's a small world. This happened to me. So that's where I got that question from. You
Wow.
want to know, are you a female advocate? Just because they're a female doesn't mean they're a female advocate. And I'm not saying that you want to go, they're out to hurt the other person. No, but you want to know if they're there to have a listening ear
Mm.
for you. Are they over talking you? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't worry about it. We'll discuss that later.
Mm.
Because you can get a 1 hour consultation that is complimentary, or it's a 1 hour consultation and they charge you 125, 250, whatever it is for the hour. So you want to make sure in that hour, when you are interviewing them, that they give you the information. So when you have these questions ahead of time, they don't have time to sit back. And attorneys are necessary. I'm not knocking attorneys, okay? So don't get sensitive, attorneys. But you don't want them to sit back and say how great they are, how many cases they solve, blah 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 blah. You need to know for you. That sounds great. I'm here because clearly I looked you up, and I want to just see that you're a good fit for me, because that's the bottom line. When you're vetting an attorney, you want to make sure they're a good fit for you. Are they there after hours? Not to talk to you, but if something happens, do they have a way for you to communicate?
Yeah.
Your children. Do the children have to have their own attorney? Some states they do, some states they don't. Some states, like New York City, you go through family court for your children, right? So that they can have their own if you can't work things out. And mediation, does the attorney feel if getting through it at some point that you and your soon to be spouse, they say, look, you know what, we want to do mediation. There's so many different questions that you don't normally know to ask. And this helps the attorney know, oh, okay, I need to stay on my toes because they have the questions. And you're saving time and money, because you get through that hour, the first 30 minutes or 20 minutes, and they're talking about how great they are and all of that, then you go blank and you don't ask the questions. But the next time, if you decide to hire them, it's $250. It's $400 for an hour. And another one with that, vetting the attorney, if they charge, which they do on the hour, if you have a question and it's only 15 minutes, what happens to the other 45 minutes? Are they going to still charge you for the whole hour? Or do they say, okay, I owe you that 45 minutes. Are you going to keep up with that 45 minutes? Because you need to write it down so that you have a record, right? Those are the questions. Or do they say, oh, that's okay, whether it's 15 minutes or 5 minutes, I'm charging you for the whole hour. You know what you're dealing with. You know how to budget. And then the third day, we talk about effective co-parenting communication. And I say it's effective co-parenting communication, but this is going to help you in your own relationships on your job, with your friends, with the next relationship you have, with your children. Effective communication is so important in life.
Yeah.
So how to ask the questions, how not to ask the questions to push the other's buttons, even though you want to. This is where you're going to call that good girlfriend or that good, male friend and go off. Get that emotion out and then come back and okay. For instance, my client, he wanted to lose it. And I was available that day. And I was like, nope. We do breathing techniques. And it sounds like crap, but no, it works. And then I said, okay, this is how you should say it. And he was like, oh, you're right, because you kept me from getting a case. So you see, because I take the emotion out.
Yeah.
I'm not vested in the marriage. I can look at it from different eyes, because this is definitely chess, not checkers. He had 16 pages. The attorney goes, could you please fill this out? It's from his soon-to-be ex-wife's attorney. And he didn't say, oh, we're going to go over together. Their paralegal is going to sit with you. No. He just says, oh, here's the documents. Please answer the questions and get back to me. Well, I went over with my client. It took us 4 hours, 2 hours on 2 separate days, back to back, because one question had 3 parts. And he was like, what? And I wasn't giving legal advice, but it was something simple. Like, you were supposed to put your date of birth. Well, I didn't think I had to, because they already have, you see those little things. Or about a schedule. Well, I want the children on the holiday. I was like, how can you have them on all holidays? You guys just stay married if you want them on all holidays. That's not fair. He's like, oh, so I'm not there, like I said, to hurt the spouse, but we have to be realistic. And these are children. They aren't pawns. He's like, I'm just going to give up and and I said, but you have to think about your children.
Right.
It's not about you. You chose your children. They didn't choose you. He was like, you're right. So when your clients can say, you're really helping to shift my mindset, that's huge.
Yes.
Because the response they receive from their soon-to-be ex is different. Now, sometimes you're just going to lose it. Just give yourself credit for that. Okay, just get on with your life. Sometimes we're just going to say the wrong things to our children. We're going to snap. It happened. Take a breath. You can do better the next time.
Let me ask you this now, Travis Michelle. The boot camp itself. Let's say we have couples out there who want to do this as effective as possible. They know that there's no chance of getting back into the marriage, but they have children and they want to do the best that they can and do things amicably. Would you recommend they go through the boot camp together? What are your thoughts on that?
Um, wow, I really haven't had that yet. I've had separate people want to go through it, then they would have a book a session with me. But I think they could go through it together because if it's amicable, there's nothing that's a secret that I'm saying. And because I'm not there to hurt anyone, it's to help educate because it's, I'm teaching you to fish because you're going to shift your mindset, right? So the healing process is starting during this divorce journey, not after. So I think it wouldn't be a problem for them both being there because you could ask questions at the end. It's 1 hour. I don't keep you there all day. Okay. I will go over the information and then you have 30 minutes where people can ask questions. Confidentiality is of the utmost. So some people do not, while I'm recording, they have their cameras off, and that is fine. I respect that. I stop recording, and that's when we ask questions so they can come off, camera. But because it's so important that we have the information, it's not information that someone can use against you because you're not giving your personal, you're just asking questions about the process of if you want personalized, sir, that's a little different. And that's where you would book a divorce strategy session with me. I don't do discovery calls because I have found that people will waste your time. A strategy session is good for you. It's good for me because I give you actionable steps. You will be writing it down, and then I can give you the replay. And then I also am paid for my services.
Yeah.
That's empowering because we know, oh my gosh, I should just be giving everything away. No, you don't have to. And this is a step towards healing. And men and women need to be empowered and asking questions. When you walk in there with your questions for an attorney, you know how empowering that is? It's like, I don't have to hire you. As opposed to, oh my gosh, I need you because we're doing it in times of desperation, right?
Yeah.
We're doing it when our emotions are at the very tip.
Not only that, but you said you mentioned that you went through 3 attorneys. Imagine having had somebody like you back then to help you and just get it done a lot faster with less heartache and frustration.
Right. And someone to tell me, TrevisMichelle, that dining room table that you guys are fighting over, you can buy another dining room table. I know y'all looking at me crazy, but it was a farmhouse, and you can see how close, it's right here on my mind. It was a farmhouse table, marble top. I loved it. And it was from Fortunoff in New York. And I love this table. And he knew it. So he wanted it. And I didn't want to give it up. And as soon as I said, you know what? What if I give you the table? He says, oh, okay, I'll sign the paperwork. Because he knew I wanted that table. So he didn't expect me to say, okay, you can have it. And the attorneys all looked at it. They did, because I didn't tell my attorney either. And guess what? He stuck to his word and he signed off. That I was like, I could have kicked myself. I could have saved a year.
My goodness. Well, that's what it is too, like navigating those egos and those emotions like, oh, you owe me all this and all my years and I deserve this and that, instead of letting go of the silly things to, I don't even know what other way to put it, so that you can move forward and finally let go and be happy and build the life that you truly deserve and want. So these are the things that are important to talk about so that when you go through the process, you're not being held back and spending all this unnecessary time in that space because you have something that you need to get through and you need a solution, you need a plan. And the best way to do it is to have a strategy. That's it. There's no other way around it. And getting the emotion out of it is so important. But we're emotional beings. We begin to think, I'm pretty sure about all the years together and the family and the events, and then the one thing that they did, and then you get angry again, and then you get sad, and then you're like, oh, I want to be free, and then you go over and over and over in your head. because you're dealing with all the emotions, but having somebody there that can put things in perspective and be very logical, because you have to be logical, because emotions will drive you crazy and not accomplish anything. So I appreciate that you do that. We need more women like you who are willing to put things in perspective. So I'm grateful for that boot camp, because I know that a lot of people are going to benefit from it. It's a great place to start for sure when it comes to having that conversation and understanding the things that you can do, where you are now and where you can get to, without.
That healing process starting there,
Mhm,
because you're learning to think differently,
mhm,
right? Your habits are going to change. So by the time you get through the divorce, and most divorces take on average a year, right? They don't take 3 years, but you do have some, and we have some celebrities we see where it takes a long time. And, it's all dependent on how much property you have and, monies are involved, etc. But the bottom line for me was my mental health and well-being. And I was not willing to sacrifice that any longer. And I saw that it was not helping my children. So you have to think about what you're willing to give up. And the other thing, I knew that I wanted to be in a relationship at some point, not right away, but at some point in my life. So did I want to carry, and I'm not saying, I'm not a Louis person, but your 8-piece Louis Vuitton
mm,
luggage?
mhm.
Or did you just want to have an overnight Gucci bag?
Yeah. Lighter, you can't
So
bring all
that's
that
it's
baggage.
right. So we're all going to have the baggage. People say, "Oh, I want someone no bag." There is no one that's not going to have baggage. It's just how much do you have,
Yeah.
right? And if you're willing to go, they're willing to go through it and like chuck it. You have to get rid of things. And my grandmother says you can hold your fist so tight that nothing gets in and nothing gets out.
Mm. Oh, yeah, that's powerful right there. Yeah. Yes. Visualize that for a second if you're listening. What are you holding on so tight to that you're not able to open your hand and receive what's coming to you, what you deserve, because you're still holding on tight,
Mhm.
right? So we have to be able to open our hands and say, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to receive. Thank you so much, TrevisMichelle, for this and for sharing so beautifully and openly. I want everybody to know that TrevisMichelle's website is trevismichelle.com. You're going to find her link to the website and also the direct link to the boot camp so that you can check that out. The dates are again November 16th through the 18th. And I'm sure she will have more coming up. But I'm sure also, TrevisMichelle, if they sign up for this, and they're not able to attend, will they have access to the recording?
Yes.
Okay.
I was trying to decide if I was going to, but if you sign up and, you just have to reach out because I'm not going to make the recordings just openly available. I know some people do that,
Yeah.
but I'm Travis Michelle. I don't do things like everybody else. And this is a very sensitive topic. So I don't want it just open that
Yeah.
way. So if you do sign up, and there is a very, I call it a nominal cost. It's $97,
Mhm.
but for early Black Friday is $77
Okay.
for those 3 days because I'm really committed to empowering. And people keep telling me I have to stop saying just women, because there are so many men that, and especially they are my clients as well. But the bottom line is the empowerment piece, because when you're going through a divorce, whatever happened in your childhood starts to resurface.
Yes.
If those insecurities start to resurface, and what do you do with them? So I will say you might want to, look at, think about some therapy. I also offer to like 988, which you can use that number to get stuff off your chest if you don't have anybody you can trust, because you can't tell your circle everything you're going through. Can y'all stop telling your friends in quotes what you're going through in your divorce? Because sometimes they're going back and telling your ex.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, y'all, you don't understand. So it's important though that your mental health, because the way you get through this journey, that dictates really your continued joy.
Yes.
It's over. Instead of I'm waiting till I to have that divorce party when it's over. But when it's over, you are sometimes you can just be a little raggedy.
Mhm.
You're angry. Um, negativity pours out of your pores, right? So you want to come out of it like, yes,
Mhm.
I got through this.
Yeah.
I have my tools in my toolkit, and you're ready to really live life on your own terms again.
Yes, that's beautiful. And that's what we want. We want to be able to feel fulfilled and live with intention and approach everything with intention, every conversation, every conflict, every setback, so that we can move forward in the way that we're meant to move forward. Now, Travis Michelle, I'm going to ask you to say your words. I'm so grateful that you were able to do this with me today. And thank you for making the time. And I can't wait to have everybody learn more about you from my personal audience and also those who will be sharing your boot camp and everything that you do. It's definitely necessary. So please, thank you, and go ahead and say what you say so beautifully.
Well, one, Mary, thank you for this opportunity. I don't take it lightly, because you didn't have to have me on your show. And so I thank you for allowing me to share my story, which is what I do to help others. I am Travis Michelle, y'all. This is how it goes. Too much for some, not enough for others. But guess what? I'm always just right for me.
I love it. I'm clapping over here. Thank you, thank you, thank you for that, Travis and Michelle. Now, make sure that you share this episode. Thank you for being here with me, Mary Massey, on Get Intentional with Mary.